Hi guys, it's Carissa and Mike. We are going to do our labor and delivery story today for this little girl. Mike is here to help me because unfortunately we have no footage for you. Everything happened really quickly and I don't remember most of it.
Yes, she may or may not have been put under. Actually, she was put under.
Thursday I went to be induced. I was given instructions to call at 2 p.m. and set up an appointment. And we were given the impression that the appointment would be late at night. But when I called, they said you can come in anytime between 3 and 7. And I chose 7 just so that Mike could take his time leaving work and we could have dinner, because the woman on the phone actually really stressed that we should eat a big dinner. She really talked a lot about food in general. She said, eat a really big dinner and then come to the hospital immediately after, because you'll probably be here for a while and you don't know when you'll be able to eat again. And make sure that you bring a lot of snacks, stop somewhere on the way if you don't have anything to bring from home, and have those with you so that when you are able to eat, you have food immediately available to you, just in case it's outside of the hours that the dining room is operating. So she really pushed that, so we decided to order a pizza. Mike came home and we tried to eat as much of the pizza as we could and pretty much stuffed ourselves, and then made our way to the hospital. We got there pretty much right on time and we were put in a room, and I think there is only one photo from the whole experience, and Mike took a photo when we first got into the first room. I was put on a monitor for a non-stress test and my back was really hurting. I couldn't get comfortable because I really only felt like I was comfortable sitting completely upright or laying completely flat, and neither of those things those aren't positions you can really have during a non-stress test. So I was reclined slightly and it was very uncomfortable. It put a lot of pressure on my lower back, but they were just monitoring the baby until they were getting ready to give me the first dose of misoprostol for induction. And I can't really remember. I mean, a lot of nurses came in, they checked my vitals, and they kept asking me, I had several people ask me, you do know this takes a few days, right? And I was like, yeah, I'm aware. We were basically given the impression that Sunday was the latest that we would be able to expect to have the baby. So I was in it for the long haul. I knew that it wasn't a quick process, especially because I was only 1 centimeter dilated. So we were in that room for, it felt like forever. It was a really nice room too. And then the doctor who was on call from our practice came in. I had never met her before. And she was basically like, okay, we're getting ready to get started and you have to move. And we kind of laughed because we thought she was kidding when we had so much stuff with us. We had used a wheelchair to bring up a whole bunch, all of our bags and a case of water, just because I knew that we drink more water than what I would have felt comfortable asking nurses for whenever they came in the room. Do you know what I mean? And I've heard horror stories where people say that they're so thirsty but they don't want to bother their nurse one more time because they seem so annoyed with how much water they want. So we brought a whole case, and the staff seemed to think that it was ridiculous, but we actually could have probably had to because we finished it before before we were gonna go home the second day. Mike had to pack all of our stuff up again. I was in a gown, so they had to put a second gown over me and shuffle us through to a different room. And by then it was probably almost 10 o'clock.
She's fine.
Mike started getting dressed for bed. They showed him there was a chair that he could recline and sleep in. And they came in about 11 o'clock to give me the first dose of miso, which was just a half dose. So it was at 50 milligrams, or I think a full dose is 100 units of whatever the measurement is. And 50 is this little chip of a pill. It's the tiniest, littlest thing, and it's so unbelievable what a difference it made in my body. Oh my gosh. So they gave that to me about 11 o'clock, and I immediately started having contractions. It was kind of scary because I didn't know that they were contractions. I just thought it was cramps. It just felt like rolling cramps at first, very intense ones. But then I started realizing that they were happening really quickly, at one right after another, and so I think at this point Mike had started to fall asleep, and I just watched the clock and realized that every 3 minutes on the dot I was having a contraction. And then I'm not sure how long that lasted for. I'm gonna guess at least an hour and a half. I was really quiet about it. I wanted Mike to try and get some sleep, and it was painful, but it was manageable. It wasn't anything that I couldn't deal with for an extended period of time. It was concerning to me that they were happening so close together, but no one had come in and checked on me at any point so that I could mention it. And then I think even if someone had, it's not that it wasn't painful, but it was, I don't know, I just felt like this can't be as bad as it gets, so just, don't be a complainer, I guess. But I did decide to sit up. I was still strapped up to a monitor, having an NST to check the baby's heart rate and her motions, and they would also be charting my contractions that way. And I figured out that based on where the baby was, I could sit up completely upright and still have her picked up on the monitor, because now that these contractions were starting, that back pain I was feeling from being reclined, I couldn't do it anymore. That was bothering me more than the contractions. And I had told the new nurse for our second room, my back hurt way too badly in the last room I was in. Is there anything that I can do differently? And she gave me a little inflatable pillow thing, but all that did really was make my back sweaty because it was plastic. So that was not really worth it. But while I was sitting up, I sat there. That was probably about an hour. I just sat up. Nobody had come in the room, so I was getting away with it, basically. I didn't know if they were going to tell me not to when they came in. But I did notice, no, I have had a cough. You guys knew I had a cough. I somehow wasn't coughing at all. I miraculously didn't have a cough. Except, at this point, I coughed 1 or 2 times. So I think Mike started to wake up around this point. It was probably between 1 and 2 in the morning, and I had coughed a couple of times, and I was wearing a pad in my underwear under my gown until they made me take it off. So I was just sitting on one of those hospital pads, absorbent pads, and I felt what I thought was just that I had peed from coughing, just a very little bit. And I figured, well, I probably should go to the bathroom the next time the nurse comes in. So I told her I needed to go to the bathroom when she came to check on me, and I think I said that I thought I had peed, but then one of you guys noticed that it wasn't pee.
It wasn't pee.
So basically, I had the first dose of miso, and it instantly gave me contractions, and within about 2 hours of that time, my water broke. And later on, we found out that they think that my water broke spontaneously, and it wasn't related.
Yeah, they said that it was natural, and the combination of the drug and her water breaking and her system kicking in at the same time brought on the next part. So,
oh yeah,
she kicked in to, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, she kicked into like an 11 contraction. And they actually had a scale. They had a little thing where they measured the NST and they measured the contractions and the heart rates and all that other stuff. And her contractions were actually through the top of the scale. Like, the nurses were staring at it like they had no idea what was going on. So, do you remember anything else?
The only thing that I really remember at that point, because once the contractions got really bad, I noticed, I kept my eyes closed for the most part and just faced the one side of the bed, laid on my side and faced Mike. But I would peek at the clock every now and then, and I realized my contractions were lasting for about 1.5 minutes, but they were 1.5 minutes apart. So as soon as I would start to feel relief from a contraction, I could feel it sort of rolling back up and getting ready to be just as bad as it was. And I was starting to feel really stressed about it, because it was happening for, the time passed really quickly, but we're talking about hours that this was happening for. And then when, I don't know, remember if it was a doctor or a nurse came in and they sort of monitored the situation, and they were like, well, we're going to give you your next dose of miso now. which seemed crazy to me, but they did. They gave me, my next dose was a full dose, because I guess what they do is they just give you a half dose to see how you tolerate it. And I would have guessed that that was showing that I was not tolerating it well, but they gave me a second dose, gave me a full dose.
And they gave, also they gave you morphine at the same time.
Oh, that's right. And they did give me morphine to try and take the edge off, they kept saying.
Yes,
that's all
this
they
should
said.
take the edge off. There was no edge that was taken off whatsoever. It was sharpened.
I don't know if that's, I don't know what it was supposed to do. If it was supposed to make me not feel the contractions as strongly. I really don't know what they, because that's all they kept saying was it's going to take the edge off. But it never felt different or improved. And my contractions continued to be back to back. So, and by now it was, I think I have, so this must have happened between 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, that they gave me that second dose, and then they started talking about the epidural, but didn't offer it to me yet. And I would have preferred, obviously I think a lot of women prefer to not have, well, I shouldn't even say that. I know a lot of women prefer to not have an epidural, but I went into it understanding that because of my blood pressure and that being an issue all along, it wasn't actually safe for me to avoid an epidural if I got to the point where I needed one, because it would raise my blood pressure to an unhealthy level. So as much as I would have liked to try and have a natural labor, even though it was really, really tough at that point. She's been doing this thing today where she just raises her arms up in the air.
Like she's doing a big stretch.
Oh, she's so cute.
And then she falls back.
So even though it was really hard, and there were a couple of moments where I said, I don't know if I can, like I was starting to worry that I was going to have a panic attack. I was like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. That was mostly just because I kept feeling people coming in the room and just putting a hand on me and staring at me and not
awkward.
saying anything.
A lot of people, a lot of different nurses, a couple of different doctors, the anesthesiologists. I had trouble with that word. Did you see me have trouble with that word? I did it though. I think I nailed it. They all came in and just kind of stared and whispered to each other.
Yeah.
Which made me a little nervous.
So Mike was amazing. He just stood next to me the whole time. He had a cool washcloth, a wet washcloth that he was putting on my face, and he had my fan. I had that little necklace fan that I brought. Thank goodness for that thing. He was just pointing it at my face for me, and it was helping me feel like I could breathe better. But I was getting no breaks between my contractions, so I had to just, I guess, I was just trying to breathe through them. I mean, I know that some people say that it's better to vocalize through, but I felt like whenever I did that, sometimes I would try, but whenever I did that, it made it seem worse. So I tried to just inhale really deeply and then exhale as hard as I could, and do that as many times as I needed to get through each contraction. So my mouth was incredibly dry. I'm sure my breath was hell, so I'm sorry about that.
I don't know.
But I just, there was no time or no reason to try or do anything else. There was nothing else that I could do but just that consistently straight through. So after a couple of hours of that, I started to worry. I wasn't there yet, but I was starting to worry that I was going to have a panic attack. So I tried to say that at one point, because I thought, if you don't tell anyone, no one can help you. So I told Mike, I don't know if anybody else was there at the time, but I was like, I'm really worried that I'm gonna freak out and that I'm gonna panic. Somebody must have heard me say that, or he must have told someone, because then they decided to check how much more dilated I was. And I don't know, I mean, I know she was just doing her job. I don't know if that's something that normally hurts. I've never heard anybody say that it hurts, but holy cow, was that painful. It felt like she was putting her entire arm into my body, and she just kept pushing. She would get to a point and it hurt really bad, and then she'd push even further, and she said I was only dilated to a 5.
3 at that time, actually.
That was a 3?
That was a 3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was a 3.
Yeah.
They gave her the epidural.
Yeah.
Someone came in,
finally,
gave it to her, and next thing you know, she's snoring.
Yeah, I think that was around 4 a.m. and I was so tired. I mean, I probably would have fallen asleep anyway if I hadn't, I don't know. I'm assuming at that point started to get really drowsy because the pain was gone. So I probably slept for the next 3.5 hours or so. Around 4 in the morning, that's the last time I remember looking at the clock. I was given my epidural. I remember feeling like if I wasn't in so much pain, I would have been more scared to have an epidural. But it was a pretty quick process. It was pretty easy. Mike stood in front of me at the edge of the bed. And it went, I don't know, I remember when my sister had hers, it felt like it took a lot longer and it was a more stressful process. So I don't know if I was just in too much pain to pay attention, but it was really nice because it was quick. And then I laid down, I looked at the clock, saw what time it was, didn't feel pain anymore, and basically passed out. And that's pretty much all I remember.
So that is when all the doctors started coming in. They came in heavily monitoring everything. At this time, they attached a heartbeat monitor to the baby through her. This little thing that connected right to the top of her head. Which is fascinating that they can do that. And also, while they were in there, they put a little bit of fluid in there to make sure that the baby wasn't crushing the umbilical cord because of all her water to come out of her system. So now they're watching it, and everything seemed like it was okay for probably maybe an hour. And I'm just standing there still. I'm just standing there. So about an hour passes then. And then all the doctors started coming in and whispering to each other again. And I asked a couple times, hey, what's going on, and everyone ignored me, which is fine because I know they're doing their jobs, but freaking give me a clue what's going on, will you? So then they did that for about another hour, just kind of stared at everything. In that second hour, the anesthesiologist came back in again to try to tone back her epidural, because I don't know if it hit her too strong, but what apparently had happened is her blood pressure had dropped. The baby's had skyrocketed because the baby was still getting these heavy contractions, which I could still see on the little graph, and they were still through the roof. Then at about probably 7 maybe, they did another check to see how she dilated, and she was at 5 at that time. But it didn't matter because for some reason now there's like 15 people in the room and everybody's real quiet. Okay, which I really didn't like, and obviously I was super concerned. And then one of the doctors came in and said, we're going to slowly roll her towards an operating room, just in case we have to do a cesarean. And okay, all right. We'll be back. Well, what we'll try to do is they'll try to, if her epidural is strong enough, they won't knock her out, and they'll have you come in the room so you can be there. If it is, if her epidural is not strong enough and we have to put her under, then obviously we're just going to do that, and we'll call and let you know what's going on. Okay, so now I'm thinking, okay, it's going to be another couple hours. Maybe they're going to roll it that way. Maybe they'll do it. Maybe they'll not. 5 minutes later, a nurse comes back and hands me one of those fancy outfits, which I put on. And then I was just walking out of the bathroom with it on to sit down in the chair, and the same nurse comes back and says, would you like to see your baby? And I said, of course I would. That is a stupid question. I didn't say that second part. So I followed her out, and they had her in the little cart, and she's beautiful, and she was perfect. And then they said, okay, we're going to roll her over to whatever the nursery area is and get her cleaned up. And then they started to kind of walk away from me, and I said, great, I'm going to go with you. And they looked at me like I was speaking another language, and I said, I'd like to go with you if that's okay. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be rude. Can I go with you? So,
she's doing her little...
she's just doing little stretches. We'll bring her over in just a second. She's just doing her little stretches. And I went over there, and they cleaned her up, and I took that first picture of her, and that was at 8:29, I believe. 8:29.
She was born at 8:28.
8:28.
And I didn't get to see her until 1:30 because I don't remember most of it, but I think I woke up around 12:15, and they made me stay in this area where I was being monitored for about another hour while I woke up. And that was a really difficult hour to lay there and know that she was here and that Mike was somewhere, but I couldn't see either of them.
You can imagine and you can probably tell, our sense of time is just a disaster. I have no really true idea what time anything happened because it all went back like that. It just was gone.
It really did. It felt like it was 2 hours. As bad as things felt, as hard as things were, the time went so fast. And then once I had my epidural, I slept. I remember being woken up to sign a consent for a C-section, which they were telling me at the time I wasn't going to have, but just in case I should sign for one. And then I do remember them rolling me through the hallway saying that I was going towards the operatory, and I don't even remember what happened, but we got in the room. They were just sort of parking me in there, and something happened where they were like, yep, we got to do it now. And then everything started moving really quickly. I was just laying there looking at the really bright lights, trying to keep my eyes open, and I knew that they were probably going to put me under, just because they were moving so quickly. And the anesthesiologist was asking me questions and talking to me, and I think kind of trying to distract me a little bit also. And I was just trying not to freak out. I was trying not to panic, because that was, if I had a worst case scenario for everything to be okay, it would have been that I was knocked out and didn't experience the fact that she was born and feel really disconnected from it. Obviously there are other much more worst case scenarios, but for the outcome where everyone ends up being okay and healthy, I would have liked to not be put under, just so that I could hear her when she was removed and be there and have Mike be there, but I'm just grateful that everything was all right. So it's okay that that's how things went. That's just what happens.
So I hung out with Vera for probably about an hour while she was getting cleaned up and stuff, just sitting there, having no idea what had just happened. I was just in shock. I had no idea. At one point they were like, do you want to hold her? And I said, I don't know. No, I think I should wait for my wife, right? Like, I didn't know what to do. I never held a newborn before. So I went back to the room for a second, and then the nurse came in and said, they're wheeling your wife out. Do you want to say hello to her? And I said, of course. And I was like, why do you keep asking me these questions? Of course. Don't normal people want to see their baby and wife when this stuff's going on? I just, somebody somewhere must have been like, nah, so now they gotta ask. I don't understand. So I go out there and they're wheeling her through, and I lean over to Chris and I say, you did it. She's beautiful. She's perfect. And you did an incredible job. Kind of sweet, right? Teresa looks up at me all unconscious and goes, oh, hey! And then they wheeled her away, and that was it. So it was, and she of course doesn't remember any of that. It was comical, but then I went back and hung out with the baby for a little bit more. And then they moved me and our stuff to another room. Of course, I should have videotaped all of this stuff. I should have, but I didn't think about it. I didn't think about any of it.
There was
everything
just the way everything went. There was no time to do. I mean, no, I understand.
I couldn't. Even when they brought her to us for the first time as a family, I should have videotaped that. I should have videotaped all of it. But I was just so what's happening? Where am I? I just completely, I screwed that up, guys. I'm sorry.
No.
Sorry.
I'm not upset about it. If anything, I don't know. I was so, when I went into the room, I was so excited to see her, but I was still kind of not fully awake yet. I tried to, I think, fool them, and I don't know if I did, but they made it sound like you have to wake up enough before we can take you to see the baby. So even though I was really drowsy still, I just tried so hard to just keep my eyes open and stare at the clock, and that's how I knew. I laid there for over an hour just waiting for them to bring me so that I could see her and see Mike, and it was killing me. I almost asked them, can you please send my husband here so I can see him, because I just felt so strange waking up and I have no baby, my husband's not there, and they're not explaining to me why I'm laying in this bed forever, for what felt like forever. And then when they brought me to meet her, it just felt so strange. I knew what happened, but it also was kind of sort of coming to me at that point, where it was like, I was understanding what had happened, even though I didn't remember. The last thing I remembered was just being wheeled into the room. So I think it would have been a little bit weird. I don't know. I don't remember much, but I just remember being so happy to see her. So, and to see him, because it felt, I don't know, I felt like I was being punished. Like, okay, you couldn't get this baby out properly, so we're gonna set you in this room and you have to think about what you did, and your husband gets to hang out with the baby somewhere. I don't know, but it was pretty intense. Apparently I would have gone into labor that night anyway, supposedly, and but I wasn't dilated enough, so I was trying to get her out of there real hard, and my cervix had other plans. So I did have a C-section. I actually feel like I recovered really well, better than I would have expected. I assumed that I'd be in real tough shape just walking. I've heard a lot of women say that they couldn't go up and down the stairs, and just how painful the incision was, but every nurse that came to help us over the course of the couple of days we were there said that they couldn't believe how well I was moving around, and I didn't even feel like I needed my Percocet. I took it once and I didn't like the way I felt, and I didn't feel that much different as far as pain went, so I only took Motrin until the first or second day we were home, and then I felt like I didn't even really need that. So as far as C-sections go, I think I got lucky. I must be healing well. Everything looked good at my 1 week postpartum appointment, so I can't really complain. I really can't. Everybody made it. Everybody did great. And if you had asked me before we even got pregnant, you can have a baby, but you'll have to have a C-section and you won't remember it, I would have said absolutely. So I'm not upset. I'm really not. So that is pretty much our labor and delivery story. We're doing really well. She is 1 week and 1 day old today. I'm not sure when you'll be seeing this, but as always, I'll have the original date we filmed this in the description of the video. And if you aren't following my social media, I've been posting things to Instagram and Snapchat, just here and there when I think to, so that I can share this with you guys, just because I haven't been great about us sitting down to film. I'm just trying to spend as much time with both of them as I can before Mike goes back to work, so. But that's it.
Everyone at the hospital was great.
Yeah.
All the nurses, all the doctors. Everybody was wonderful. Nobody stands out that we didn't really care for. Everybody was cool.
I feel like, I don't know, a lot of people that I hear, a lot of people that I know who've at least gone to the hospital that we just went to have had at least 1 or 2 run-ins with a staff member that caused a problem. And I told you guys about how the nurses were turning the room temperature up and things like that for other people that I know that have been there. But we had a really comfortable stay. We were given a double room and we had it all to ourselves, so Mike had his own bed.
I had my own bed. It was great.
It was really nice. Yeah. So I felt really guilty about it, but the first 2 nights they took her to the nursery. And then the 3rd night they took her to the nursery because they had to run tests and things, I guess, run blood work and do different things over the course of the evening, and they said that they would do that and then bring her back when she was hungry so that I could feed her, which I really liked because the first couple of nights, I mean, I didn't get to feed her. Her first meal was formula because I was knocked out in a room somewhere, so they were feeding her, and I did get to work with a lactation consultant who was amazing. I just got lucky because a couple of others came in the room that I don't think I would have worked as well with, I guess. The first one she just was very good at what she did, and she gave me great pointers. And we were working on feeding. I did need to use a nipple shield, unfortunately, every single time because she wouldn't latch without it. But I was really happy with how that went. And so by the third day, just before we went to bed, they took her to the nursery and wheeled her in probably every 2.5 hours or so to eat. And it was nice because I missed her so much whenever she went to the nursery at night. But I knew I had to try and get some sleep. So you know, all the nurses were like, please don't feel guilty, just get your rest. And that first night was rough. I needed that sleep. And the second night I had nightmares. I had weird nightmares that I didn't know where the baby was and all sorts of stuff like that. So it was kind of nice that she wasn't in the room and I didn't have to actually worry, because I probably wouldn't have slept at all. I would have just kept waking up to see her. So it was great. We really had a good experience, and we're just so happy right now. It's just, everything's gone so well. So we took her to her first pediatrician appointment, and that went great, even though it was hard to watch her get her heels stuck. And I cried. And we were so sleep deprived because Monday was observed as a holiday. So we called Tuesday morning to let them know we needed an appointment. They're like, well, you need to come today because they need to see the baby by the second day. And we had like 2 hours notice without having showered or done anything to prepare. And then they were like, oh, by the way, you also have to be here 15 minutes early. So that was a tight squeeze.
I don't understand. Why wouldn't they just schedule it 15 minutes earlier? I don't understand.
Yeah, so that we could do new client paperwork. So that was a bit of a whirlwind. I was not really with it. I remembered feeling a little bit crazy and so glad he was there with me. But that went well. Everything's been great. So we just wanted to give you guys that, and
all the trouble and the things you hear about how people are tired and worn out, beat up and exhausted, and all that crap, it means nothing. It really means nothing, because it's all worth it.
Yep.
It's all very, very worth it.
Even at the very worst, when I was, hours into contractions that were back to back, I just kept telling myself, everybody does this. Everybody gets to this point. And I would do it again, over and over again. So I don't even, as hard as it got, and I did get relief from that, and who knows how much longer I could have put up with it before maybe I did have a panic attack. I don't know, but I'd be willing to try again. None of it matters, as long as she was safe and healthy. And she's quite a bit smaller than we thought she was going to be. Mm-hmm. We were told at our last ultrasound that she was 7 pounds 3 ounces, most likely, but that was an underestimation because they couldn't get a full measurement of her belly where they said the bulk of her weight would be. So we were expecting an 8-pound baby, 8 pounds plus, and she didn't even hit 7 pounds. So she doesn't fit in any of her clothes, by a lot.
Yeah, by a lot. We had to wrap her in towels when we brought her home in the car seat because none of her clothes fit her.
No, I mean, we couldn't safely get her home in clothing. So we basically had to put her, thank goodness for Gerber onesies, because they do run small. We had some Gerber newborn onesies, and just put some pants on her that were too big and rolled them all up. Mm-hmm. And we've been using socks to keep her pants on, putting her socks over her pants. And it's cold, so we've been wrapping her up in towels and swaddling her, and she's almost always got a hat on, and she's probably gonna look silly in most of her photos from the first few weeks home, but we're just trying to keep her warm and keep her clothed as well as we can. So she'd probably fit into preemie clothes, but it feels silly to buy those at this point. She's got so much clothing that she'll be able to fit into very soon. So
my work was great. They told me to take off as much time as I wanted, so because they knew how big of a deal this was, and everyone at my job has been kind of following what's been going on and all that other stuff, and helped me make all the arrangements to cover for everything. And so they've been great. So any of you guys that are watching out there, thank you for all your support.
thank you guys.
With letting us do what we got to do here. So everybody's probably really annoyed with listening to us talk. Would you want me to go get her from her little chair over here now?
Yeah.
Okay. The dogs have been fantastic too.
The dogs really love her.
Oh, they've been fantastic. Lucy's already being protective of her. Bowser just immediately walked up and just gave her a lick and then just like walked away and lied down. But they've been very, very, very good. So we did the send home the baby hat routine, and all they did was tear that to shreds. I don't know if that helped anything at all or not, but
yeah, I don't even know if they actually smelled it. They just played with it, I guess. So, but she has brown hair, and so far she's got blue eyes, but I'm sure that will change. She's got sort of those like midnight blue baby eyes that most babies are born with. I was born with that, so so it'll be interesting to see if she ends up with brown eyes or hazel or what. My mom does have blue eyes, so it's a possibility, I guess, but I don't think it's likely. She also does have a little spot on the back of her head.
yeah.
We don't know if it's going to stay, but
Her hair is. I said I'm gonna wake her up. She finally fell asleep. Her hair is all brown, except see the one little white spot there. She's got one little blonde spot of hair there. Oh, you can see it.
yeah,
pretty
you
well
can
right
see
in
it. The
text.
texture
It's
of the
not
hair
bald.
is different there too.
It's just a light color.
Yeah.
And
Her head was really, really cone shaped from being stuck in the birthing position for so long
yeah,
and not being able to get
her
out.
body was trying to push the baby out so hard, but there was no place to go.
Yeah, so
there
but
was
her head
a
is-
big bruise here when she first came out.
It looks amazing though. I can't believe how quickly she's healed from that, and her head has become a normal shape. So,
But she's perfect. She's absolutely perfect. She poops a lot, like a lot.
really noisy,
Yeah.
forceful poops.
Yeah.
She is far, far too small for any of her cloth diapers, but we were planning on not doing that for the first few weeks at least anyway.
She's the cloth diapers are like the size of her.
Yeah, they're enormous. I'm actually concerned about when we'll actually be able to start. Otherwise, she's doing great. She's nursing really well. I somehow was able to miraculously get her off the nipple shield in my first couple of tries. I was trying to go without it, and she would scream and cry and look for it, but I snuck in a few times there without it, and she started to accept her feedings without that. So I'm really grateful for it, because I know that I'd like to pump to keep my supply up after feeding her, but with the nipple shield I had to, so it just felt like an obligation, and I wasn't producing very much at the time anyway, so it was frustrating for both of us. But we're doing great. We're doing as well with that as I could expect to. So yeah, we're just having some happy family time until Daddy's got to go back to work, and tomorrow she has her newborn photos, which I'm very excited about. And we have to just try to keep her from scratching her face between now and then, because she wants to scratch her face real bad. She's working on that. She works on that every chance she gets. And she scratched me with her nails and drew blood and everything. So I've been just trying to keep up with them and trim them. They grow super fast, and she's been good about it so far. So we'll just hope that she doesn't do that before her pictures tomorrow, and when I get those back, I'll make sure to show them to you guys.
So thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
Sorry it took us so long to do the being home update, but we wanted to spend a little time as a family. So, but thank you everyone for your support, and we'll see you soon.
Yep. Thank you.